used to play rock guitar with the group Yes. He's been collecting guitars since the age of 15, and his collection numbers 130 guitars and spans 2 centuries of guitar making. I always thought guitars were fairly simple instruments, but Steve has some very unusual examples. What guitar is that?
Well, this is an old favourite guitar of mine. I bought in 1963, and it's a Gibson 175, and it's been on many tours and many recording sessions ever since.
Steve, Gibson is the sort of king name in guitars, isn't it? And we're surrounded by Gibsons. What is it that makes them so special to a collector like yourself?
Well, they have lots of charm and lots of finesse and lots of different ranges and models. And besides guitars, they also make mandolins. And that's actually where the story gets interesting with Gibson, because just before the turn of this century, Orville Gibson started developing mandolins with violin characteristics taken from Stradivarius violins. So the insides were carved, and he included F-holes, and generally started to make mandolins look different, because usually they were bowed back and flat top.
When did electric guitars come in?
Well, really about the 30s, people were thinking and working and developing guitars, and it really started with Hawaiian slide guitars. But by 1930, Rickenbacker were making them. 1940, Gibson started doing them. And at the end of the 40s, Fender and Gibson were both making or developing new guitars. And this one's actually from the 50s, twin neck guitar. The idea was a mandolin facility here and a guitar here. And then, of course, they developed into much larger instruments. They took the full-bodied guitar style. And this one's got 3 pickups, so we can get 3 different sources of the sound. One very near the bridge, which means it's very trebly, and one up the front, which is favoured by jazz players, and a switch that can give you any combination you want.
Did musicians themselves design guitars?
Well, they went to Gibson and said yes. Tal Farlow and many other jazz guitarists did try this, and this is a particularly interesting guitar. Only 200 were made of the Gibson Tal Farlow, and he was recently in London and Scotland, I believe, playing.
It's much flatter than the guitar you yourself designed.
Well, yes. Well, the difference being that this is an acoustic guitar, although it has electric transducer pickup in it, which means we can amplify it, but it only amplifies the acoustic sound. It doesn't, in other words, create a new sound, which is more the sound of the 20th century, the electric guitar. It's actually contacted from the string directly to the pickup, while this is more of a resonating amplification.
I like the label inside that says "From your friends at Gibson's" in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Have you been there?
Yes, I have. I've been there on many occasions and toured, given them a few ideas and lots of feedback.
Steve, would you give us a sample of the most up-to-date of the Gibson guitars here, which is it that one there?
Well, this is one of the quite recent guitars. This is the development of the Les Paul range, and Les Paul, as most people will know, did a lot of very futuristic recording in the late 40s with multi-tracking and echo, and he developed a whole range of electric guitars which are very much favoured by blues guitarists and all sorts of guitarists.
Do you like it?
Yes, I have a small collection of Les Pauls, and this one is called the Les Paul, and I'm going to play a little piece on it.
Lovely. Steve, how far back does your collection of guitars go?
Well, it goes back to about 1780 with a collection of a few lyre guitars that I have that I find particularly interesting.
It's beautifully ornate. I can imagine a guitar like this being played at a court.
Yes, you're right. This guitar was very, very popular with ladies at court because of its delicate shape, and also it was partly responsible for the inclusion of the sixth string on the guitar. Up until then it was mainly 5 strings or 5 courses, and the lyre guitar helped to develop that sixth string, which is now commonplace.
What is this guitar?
Well, this guitar is made by Roundorf. It's a shield. I call it a shield guitar, but it's really in the lyre guitar family. It stands up. It starts to have arms going up, you see.
This wonderful inlay here looks like mother of pearl.
Yes, it is mother of pearl.
Were the French the best guitar makers at the time?
Well, they were very good guitar makers, and many of their guitars have lasted, but England had its own very good makers too. And this is an unusual guitar. It's called an Apollo lyre guitar, and this was invented and made by Warman in London itself, and I think it was around 1813.
I love that, with the moon here and the sun there.
Right, and this just tunes at the top.
How on earth do you play a guitar like that?
Well, this is the Solomon Harpo lyre guitar. It was patented in 1829, and one did play it conventionally across one's lap, but with a certain amount of difficulty because of the closeness of the arms. But there were bass, standard guitar, and then a treble neck, which completed this rather odd and unusual instrument.
This is a bit of a cheat, isn't it? It's not a guitar at all.
Well, yeah, they were called cricket bats, these ones, at one time. But this is a Hawaiian guitar, and the purpose of the 4 necks is to give maximum flexibility on the tunings. And so it was very popular in the Hawaiian period, which we don't hear much of anymore. But Fender, nevertheless, have carried on to make extremely popular guitar. This is a predecessor to the Telecaster, named the Broadcaster.
You obviously know an enormous amount about guitars. Where do you do your research?
Well, I've been researching through old guitar catalogues, various books, collection books, and also by visiting lovely collections of guitars, like at the V&A Museum here in London, and various other collections in Europe, because I've been piecing together ideas for a book and a total photographic documentation of the entire collection.
This guitar at the very end, the red one, is the end of our long line of your lovely samples. What's special about it?
Well, this is one of the latest guitars from Gibson, and it contains the active electronics that require a battery to be inserted in the back, and it's a very powerful and flexible guitar.
Do you use it?
I'm using it on stage and recording studio at the moment.
Well, Steve has very kindly agreed to play us out on our own signature tune, the Continental. And in fact, you've been hearing his own arrangement of that song every week on tape. But tonight, we've got him live in studio. Next week, we'll be going to the Park Lane Hotel to look at Art Deco. So do join us then. Good night.